Hello there.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Vanessa.
And we are late to the party, and Better Late Than Never is gone into quarantine for the next foreseeable future.
We are doing our part in social distancing.
Travis is not here, and he probably won't be here for the next few episodes.
That's okay. We'll be okay. We'll just go to one play. One play. We'll have enough.
But he was very much in conversation with us, thinking about what should be the next theme for Better Late Than Never for April. And of course it makes sense, viral pandemics, right now for us to cover those films that were always kind of in the vein of fantasy. There is some truth to it, there is some fear, but almost like, you know, you're afraid a shark's gonna come up and bite you in the middle of the ocean. We're always afraid some crazy disease is gonna come out and take us all out. So that's why we classified these movies kind of suspense thriller, more so horror films, but now it's a reality.
Just thinking about them makes me all like, ooh, because, you know, you never know. Could happen.
It could happen, and it has happened now. We are living in it. We are living in that COVID-19 universe. So we put out a tweet on Twitter for you guys to say, what is your go-to pandemic viral outbreak film? The highest one that was rated, Contagion. 2011's Contagion.
Yeah, it makes sense though, because I feel like that one is probably the most closest to getting to realistically what could possibly happen in a scenario like that. And I mean, we're kind of seeing it now. You know, we have to stay at home,
right?
Make sure that you're not touching things, touching your face, washing your hands, all that kind of stuff. So
directed by Steven Soderbergh, it has an all-star cast: Matt Damon, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kate Winslet, Jude Law, among many others, Lawrence Fishburne,
Marianne Cotillard,
and Bryan Cranston. So there is a huge list of actors that have just recently too did a video doing a PSA to basically, you know, keep up the social distancing, washing your hands. It was foreshadowing to what would eventually happen and where we are now. Granted, yes, it is inaccurate in terms of certain things, but in the eyes of those that preach this kind of preparation to a pandemic of this kind, it is one of the most accurate films to convey what happens when that happens. So
right.
We are going to watch the first original trailer for Contagion now.
Red, dark.
It was a groundbreaking ceremony for a new factory.
Did she mention seeing anyone who was sick? Anyone on a plane at the airport?
No, she said she was jet lagged.
The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Beth. No, go up to your room, honey.
So we have a virus with no treatment protocol and no vaccine at this time.
You had a seizure this morning, Beth.
Face.
No.
As of last night, there are 32 cases.
Unfortunately, she did die.
Right. Can I go talk to her?
The scene.
I
Her
know.
wife was dead.
What are you talking about?
What happened?
What happened to her? What happened to her?
Out of nowhere.
Is there any way someone could weaponize the bird flu? Is that what we're looking at?
Someone doesn't have to weaponize the bird flu. The birds are doing that.
Yep.
Watch this. It's transmission, so we just need to know which direction.
On day 1, there were 2 people, and then 4, and then 16. In 3 months, it's 1 billion. That's where we're headed.
They're calling out the National Guard. They're moving the president underground. People will panic.
Get away!
It will tip over.
The truth is being kept from the world.
Cook your samples, destroy everything.
It's crazy.
Right? Look at that. Look at that.
I need
That's
you
a
to
little
give me
different.
the names of everyone who serviced this room. It's an emergency.
You can't panic now.
I know.
I'm gonna get you home. I got people too, Dr. Cheever.
Yeah.
We all do.
Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anyone. Stay away from other people.
I love the music that they do with the names.
Yeah.
Get back in your car! We're not sick!
No one is immune
To fear.
It's figuring us out faster than we're figuring it out.
It's mutated.
So what I love about this movie is that they do really heavily focus on the fear aspect of a pandemic, essentially, a widespread virus that's going through and taking down neighborhoods, communities across the globe. And even the tagline for the poster, one of the few taglines, was "Nothing spreads like fear." So it really does come down to how the human condition responds in situations like this, as well as the fact that they're just trying to survive. But it just comes down to how they all act with each other too, just trying to save each other, trying to take from each other, trying to profiteer off each other. There's many different variables when it comes to how humans act in this scenario that we're seeing replicated in the real world too.
I remember seeing, I didn't see it in theaters, but I saw it a little bit after it came out in theaters, and I remember watching it and just being like, oh, back then, in 2012, when it wasn't really anything, that we didn't really have anything at that moment.
Right.
And just watching it and be like, dang, like that sucks and all that stuff, watching the movie. But then now we watched it like a couple weeks ago, just because, oh, this is happening.
As did many other people.
Right. And just thinking about it, and it just makes me think about all the things, like when she's talking about how like you touch things, it gets transmission by fomites is what they're calling it. And I'm just like, now every time I go to places, I'm like, oh, I'm touching that. What happened? Who was the last person to touch that? Who was the last person to touch that?
Right.
So it's really interesting kind of going back and now thinking about it, because you don't think about it, you just kind of do your routine, you know.
You live your life.
People wash their hands. We don't think about it.
Right.
But now we are thinking about it, and it's intense.
It's like I wash my hands directly after going and, touching the mailbox or pushing a code to get into a gate. Like I'm constantly washing my hands anytime after it comes in contact with pretty much anything, much like the doctors and the surgeons. I just washed.
Tuck it right in there. I don't want to re-sterilize.
We did get a big following for this movie at the theater when I worked there. It ended up getting a pretty decent heavy stream of audience because, like you said, we didn't have anything really going on in terms of like a pandemic movie. The big one I think that I could think of before that, was Outbreak, when it came to viral outbreak, unless you're talking about like 28 Days Later or some of the other ones that have to do with zombies like I Am Legend. But when it comes down World War Z, of course, when it came down to it, like people were interested, and this was the first time that you kind of saw one of those pandemic movies approached more so realistically versus like Outbreak. Outbreak, there's a whole thing where they're going to bomb the town and we got to stop the bomb. There's a helicopter chase. Like there's all sorts of different action elements to it, where this one was primarily trying...
On information.
Yeah, absolutely. Information is the real strong underlining tone for this movie when it comes down to people just trying to get the info, people trying to survive off the info given to them, or people like Jude Law's character who is profiteering off the information that is incorrect and using it for his benefit as well. That's going on right now too.
But at the same time, it's like you see what Jude Law is doing in this movie and you're not really sure, like he is, because he believes it, he's 100%. Doing these things and he's believing it, but then there's this other, the other side where you're like, you can't tell these people these things, you have the government coming in and being like, no, like we need to try to control this and you're not helping.
Right.
Because like you said, the tagline, no one's immune to fear, and it's true. I mean, you kind of have that, like with going on right now, if you never with the toilet paper, toilet paper is gone, like it's gone, like it just, in my mind it just never thought like, why would you go for toilet paper first when you probably should go with like the hand sanitizer or the soap, or vitamins that can help you with like vitamin C, or vegetables or food in this instance, whereas like the first thing to go is like toilet paper and paper towels. But it was because you saw people taking it, and then you have other people, they're taking it, so I have to take it so that I have it, and that to make sure that if I don't, like, to be prepared.
It's a disease as well. It's a disease that ends up spreading. And it's funny because the Xbox video game State of Decay, they actually talk about that in the game, that the first thing to go was the toilet paper. So there are underlining survival instincts to try and cover your ass when it comes to
Literally.
gaining those, materials to kind of survive past the point where distribution is interrupted and you're not able to get that supply line anymore of things that make your life easier. So everybody just thinks toilet paper, it lasts a long time, you just throw it away and keep it around for the long term. But when it comes to this film does a great job at giving us that kind of information of what is happening in the world and how we can respond in a way to survive across the board. It's funny, in the movie there's a point where they actually pick the first day for who they're going to give vaccines to, and it's your birthday, and they choose March 10th as the first day in the first wave of those getting the vaccines. And it's funny, Outbreak actually released on March 10th for them to bring that over. More of a tip of the hat to the blockbuster that was Outbreak. And the doctor who actually was the head medical consultant even got the coronavirus recently. It was not too long ago. I think it was like last week. The one thing I didn't like though is the whole thing with the kidnapping and Marion Cotillard, and they're trying to save a village. It's like, okay, well now it feels like you're turning this into a movie. For me, it's like parts like that.
It can happen, though.
It absolutely can happen, but that's the first part in the movie where I'm like, this feels like a movie. But with these kind of pandemic films too, it usually brings in a variety of actors and actresses to play in the movies. They're pretty big names too. Like if you go back and look at Outbreak, you end up having Dustin Hoffman, Cuba Gooding Jr., Kevin Spacey, Rene Russo, Donald Sutherland, Morgan Freeman. Here you got all the actors that we talked about in the beginning, and then some. Like there's more actors underlining that fill out the casting list to say, hey, everybody come watch this movie. It is a ensemble of known names to all give their part, as minimal as it may be, Gwyneth Paltrow, but very impactful as well to bring people to the theater to watch this movie. I don't know if it's an attempt to do that.
I mean, to be honest, the reason why I also wanted to watch the movie when I did was because of Kate Winslet. Kate Winslet was probably like the one I was like, oh, Kate Winslet's in it, I'll go see it. And then, of course, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie or if you have seen the movie, her character kind of goes out early in the movie too,
right?
In a very sad way because she's trying to fight whatever's happening to protect other people, and then she ends up getting the illness as well.
Which is happening right now too.
Yeah, so like you said, but it was very impactful on her side too because you got to see what she was doing. You got to see Lawrence Fishburne, what the CDC was doing,
right.
What the World Health Organization, because that's where Marion Cotillard was coming from. So you have that organization there too. So it's just, but I felt like the movie flowed very well. A lot of times when you have a movie like this, or you have a movie in general that has a big cast, sometimes you felt like maybe they're leaning towards different characters a little too much and not giving enough to everybody.
Right.
But I thought in this movie that Steven did a very good job at kind of laying out what needs to be done in certain parts of the movie because it called for it at that time, right. And then it moved on to something else.
And the music did a good job of transitioning those moments too.
Yeah.
Time passes by pretty quickly, but at the same time, the way the music sets it up and jumping back and forth, I really enjoy the soundtrack that they end up using for it to kind of convey that passing of time. You're constantly, it feels like a ticking time bomb,
yeah.
But at the same time, it's ushering you into the next scene. And then there's no music at certain points too.
Right.
When things are at their worst, at the same time, at the very end of the movie, I was an usher at the theater, and there is a point where Matt Damon is looking in the closet at the very end. He's looking for a camera to go take a picture for his daughter's prom down in the living room, because everybody's still kind of quarantined. You end up getting no music, and as an usher, I'm like, oh, can I go in and clean now? And you walk in like, ah, crap, it's the Matt Damon scene, and you go running back out because there's no music. But the loss that everybody goes through this too is quite prevalent. You're seeing it now in society. It is quite a mirror to what is actually happening. So
right, that's why we don't want to get to the extent that this movie got to. And that's why they're like urging people to, social distancing so that they can get a handle on it before it gets a handle on them.
And the ending too, that ending, the origin of where everything came from, obviously.
I love that
so
part because
current.
you figure out where it's coming from too.
Right.
You're just like, wow, like.
And that's the music I'm thinking of too at the very end, where they show you the timeline of what happened. It's definitely
I love it came full circle though too, because like when it was showing like they were breaking down the trees and everything, it was the company that she works for.
Full circle all the way around. But Contagion, what did you guys think of it if you saw it? Obviously, it's something that a lot of us turn to as entertainment, but at the same time, it's definitely something to kind of look at to basically prepare yourself or prevent what could possibly happen in the future. So it's definitely something y'all can take control of. Look at, we're doing our part, not having Travis here, and doing our due diligence by social distancing and of course washing up constantly. But thank you guys for watching our reaction, our retro reaction to Contagion. You can also like and subscribe.
And do the thing on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Stardust.
All the social networking joints, you know where they are. Take it to the party, fuel the party, keep the party going on our Patreon. Takes the party where it needs to go, which is the living room to the kitchen to the dining room. We can't go anywhere, but thank you guys so much, and as always,
now it's time to say goodbye.
This party is over.
Bye.
Bye.